Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. I am the aforementioned host, and I'm excited to welcome as my guest today, Glenda Lane. Glenda teaches high-achieving women who are struggling with doing it all that there is another way with more ease and spaciousness that doesn't cost their health and well-being. She has combined 32 years as a physical therapist and 12 years as an energetics coach, merging science and spirituality to help women tap into their innate body wisdom, remember who they really are, and make choices that are aligned with their true nature. This assists women to shift their operating systems and embody the codes of flourishing. Welcome, Glenda Lane, to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Thanks so much, Brett, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So, my first question is, in the intro, you used a phrase there called spaciousness. So, what exactly do you mean by spaciousness?
Well, a lot of the women that I work with, when they're high achieving, they're on the go constantly. There's one thing after the next, and there's no space to even breathe sometimes. There's no space in order to relax and to even just check in with themselves in terms of how they're doing. And so, a lot of times there's this idea that if we build in space or if we build in breaks, then we're not going to be as productive, right? And we're not going to be churning, doing all the things that we want or that we believe we need to do, when in fact actually building in some spaciousness into your days actually allows you to be more efficient and more effective, because you're really tuning into yourself, giving yourself what you need in order to be the best version of you, and that translates over into anything that you then do in life.
All right. Well, I want to expand on that in a little bit because we want to approach it from the perspective of an aspiring public speaker and how they might put spaciousness into their day. But
Yeah.
before we do, I want to dive a little bit more into your background, Glenda, because we've known each other for a couple of years now through various things, but
Yeah.
I don't really know that much about you. Now, you were a physical therapist for a long time. I've got to tell
hmm
you, I have some familiarity with that world because my wife was a physical therapist assistant for 40 years.
Oh, awesome.
So she was, when COVID hit, she retired because she was doing in-home physical therapy for the visiting nurses. But that's
Right.
another story for another day. So like I said, I know
hmm
somewhat of that world or whatever.
Yeah.
But you've been involved in physical therapy. You've been an energetics coach. What was the impetus for the transition from one career field to the next?
Well, I'll say too that I actually still am practicing physical therapy,
Okay.
and it's one of these. I've been in and out of the profession probably 5 or 6 times, Brett. Like it's really it's really bizarre to me how many times I've kind of taken and just gone the route of being an energetics coach. But I'm back into it, and the reason why this time that I'm back into it is I got the call, so to speak, was and just in my own meditation practice of Glenda, it's time to come back into the world of physical therapy as a physical therapist, and also bring all that you've learned from the world of energetics into what you do as well. working with people and their physical bodies and really treating people as a whole being, body, mind, spirit. And so bringing some of that back, it's like, let's change the way that we're doing physical therapy. And so I really heeded that call and I came back into it in February. But what led me into the world of energetics in the first place was really, I think honestly, the catalyst for that was about 20 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. And so I went home. I live in Western Canada. I went home to Eastern Canada to be with her and to help take care of her in those last 3 months. And after she passed, it really was, it was just such a big shift for me. I mean, she was my best friend, and it was like the first time in my life that had really experienced grief in that way. And, you hear that grief, can break someone's heart. Well, for me, it broke my heart open. And it led me down this path when I came back to my home in Edmonton. I was flipping through a magazine that has all these different courses and workshops that you can take in the city. And one of them really caught my eye. It was a half-day workshop on how to bend spoons with energy. And I was like, what is that? And never before kind of, I don't have a religious background. I don't really have a spiritual background. I hadn't really gone into that world at all. But long story short, I went to this workshop being held by a psychic intuitive, and I trained with her for 2 years in learning how to basically do, the work that she does for my own personal self. It was my own personal journey because I wanted to feel like I was still connected to my mom. And so I never thought in a million years that I would ever do the work that I do now with my clients. But it set me on a path of, I took a year-long coaching program in energetics, learning how to read energy, move energy blocks, and become a coach in that realm. And then that led to another year-long program called Magic School, which is like a mystery school, which you go even deeper. And then another year-long program that called Flight School with the Wide Awakening. And that you learn how to go direct with consciousness. So it really was my mom passing really was the beginning of my spiritual journey and opening the world to the world of energy. So I think that was where, I guess the road diverted a little bit for me, but I was still practicing as a physio. So maybe it's more that it expanded versus diverted. And now, I can wear two hats and also not separate them out. Like, the physio in me isn't going to go away. The energetics coach in me isn't going to go away in whatever I do. So there's a lot of overlap now between
So
both.
are you a master spoon bender then, Glenda?
It's so funny. I haven't tried it in a really long time. I did end up doing it during I don't think I did it during the workshop, but certainly later on in training with her, I remember it was like literally it was like rubber. It felt like that anyway when I did it. So, but it's been a while. I would have to try it again. I'm not sure where I'm at with it now.
All right, so let's talk about speaking and how it's played a role in your businesses now. So,
Yeah.
did you do speaking as part of your physical therapy practice in some way, first of all, and then how have you utilized it in your energetics work?
Yeah, well, I'll even take you like further back into my
Okay.
childhood. I've always loved being on a stage, and I know that can put a lot of fear in the hearts for a lot of people of even thinking about that. But I did ballet from the age of 2 to 14, and I just loved it. I loved being on the stage, and then that led. I think it was junior high for us, which for me started in grade 6 is when we started to have to write and give our own speeches in class. And then we would do it in front of the whole school. And it was like this, became a competition. If you won, then you got selected to then kind of compete. There was another school in town as well. You'd go to the Legion was where our public speaking contests were held. And so I'd go there, and then if you won from there, then you'd go on to kind of the next regional competition. And so I did that. I did that all through my schooling. I was also valedictorian, both at junior high and high school. And I think it just put me in really good stead because and don't get me wrong, it's not like I never get nervous before I speak. I still do. But I think knowing that I can do it, knowing that, and I think that's what helps me when I get on stage is it's like I know I could do it because I have the experience of it. And so I think that that has really helped me in my career. And certainly as a physical therapist, it's not so much that you're like on a stage speaking, but you're leading the conversation with every client that comes in, and being able to connect with them is super, super important and build trust. And so I feel like that has really held me in good stead in terms of my physical therapy career. And then in the energetics coaching realm, I think, the same thing. I'm giving, I'm leading classes, I'm coaching programs, I'm speaking on stages, on podcasts, and it's something that I actually love doing. And I know that for a lot of people, it can be a little challenging, right? Because they're not comfortable doing it. But I think for me, I mean, I just love having conversations. I think, and especially in the form of like an interview process and us having a conversation versus me just giving a speech like I did in the good old days. It's not so much my jam anymore, but I think it's just a way, speaking allows you to obviously share your knowledge and your wisdom and teachings. Also, it's just an amazing way to connect. I never think that I'm like speaking to someone. I feel like I'm speaking with them. And so that always, and even when I'm writing, if I'm writing something, if I'm writing a social media post, if I'm writing a blog, if I'm writing an email, I always have that in mind of, yeah, I'm speaking with someone. This is a conversation. And so speaking is a way that you also can get in front of and meet and connect with so many more people than if you didn't speak at all. So it's a way to become visible, but also I think for people to get to know you. It's like, who is this person? And let me hear what she has to say. And is it resonating? Is it not resonating? Do I feel a good energy coming off of her? Is it something I'm resonant with or not? I think it's really important. And I can't imagine not doing any form of speaking in my business.
So you talk about the importance of connection. So whether it be with a patient or whether it be with an audience, what are
Yeah.
maybe a couple of your best tips for truly establishing that connection with whoever it is you're talking with?
Yeah. Well, it's for me to connect with someone means that I first need to be in connection with myself. And so, what I mean by that is being really present and really, I mean, my first check in is always with my breath. How I'm breathing tells me the state of my nervous system. So if I'm breathing rapid and shallow, I know that I'm not, I'm in fight or flight typically, the fear response or the stress response. Whereas if my breaths are deep and slower and just how you feel in your body, then I know that I'm in a more relaxed state. And so for me, that's the state I want to be in when I'm speaking with someone. So the breath is always the first step. And if I do notice I'm a little bit dysregulated and I'm breathing quickly or shallow, I'll just take a few moments to just not necessarily take huge deep breaths initially, but just to start to deepen my breath gradually and breathe right down into my stomach and really allow myself to um, feel, it sounds so weird, but feel my breath, to really be present to how it feels when the air comes in as I breathe in and as the air goes out. So that's something that I do. A second thing is presence. And so for me, presence has a few meanings. One is that I'm present in my body. In other words, I'm not just up in my thinking mind, but I'm in connection with, using the five senses as an example. What am I seeing in this moment? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? And that brings me present in my body. And then also being in the present moment is really important too. I don't want to be like thinking about something off in the future, or I'm still stuck in the past of what I've just been doing. It's like I'm here in my body in this present moment right now. And then present with my presence, meaning that my presence is my spirit, right? Is my divinity, and being in connection with that in that place in me. So those are all things that I've learned to do through my energetics work. And I will do that in between clients, in my physical therapy practice. I'll just take a moment to make sure, okay, if my energy is scattered, I'll call it back into me. I do three energy tools. One is centering, where I'm calling my energy back into me. The second one is I'm grounding. So really just like, okay, feet on the ground here, I'm present. I'm not spinning up in my head. And then the connecting piece. And so I will do that in between my clients, and I can do it really quickly now because I've practiced for so many years. I'll do it before any call that I come on, before any interview. If I were to go on a stage, I would do the same thing. And those are ways that I'm in connection with me. I'm fully here, therefore I can be fully present with you. And so, and then I think the last piece around what I do is really have an intention going into whether it's an interview or it's with a client or speaking on a stage, is how do I want this to go, right? Like, how do I want to feel? And have that intention of connecting with whoever I may be speaking to, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, and also to enjoy myself and just to relax into being me. I think, why, if we're not enjoying ourselves, why are we doing it? I really believe that's important.
So when you speak from a stage, Glenda, how do you measure in your mind whether a presentation has been successful or not?
That's a very good question. I think for me, it all comes back to feeling, how I'm feeling. And did I show up as me? Like the truest version of me? Did I enjoy myself? And did I feel an energetic exchange with the audience? And that's just my own personal thing.
And you mentioned you appear on podcasts regularly, so it's something that I certainly think all speakers should be doing, is speaking on podcasts in addition to being on the stage.
Yeah.
What in your mind makes for a good podcast guest?
Well, what is a good podcast guest? I think certainly we have the responsibility to show up being ready, number one. Number two is like I said, being really present, and we're on, so getting ourselves into an energetic state where we are present and here to connect, I think is really, really important. And also to really be in connection with the podcast host. I think that's really important as well. And not just, I'm not here just to give a speech, right? I'm not here just to sell something. I'm not here just to, I'm here to share any wisdom that I have, absolutely. And like I said, here to have fun, but also then, I want the podcast host to also come away from the interview and go, wow, okay, I really enjoyed that. So that to me, I guess, would be.
All right, so I want you to share some more of that wisdom, and I have some other questions for you. But before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And we are back with the Spotlight on Speaking show, and my guest this time is Glenda Lane. So, Glenda, in my mind, there are three primary types of speakers. You have your keynote presenter that we're all familiar with. You have what I call the platform seller, so they're going to deliver content and then offer some type of product or service at the end. Or what I call the business builder speaker. They're just speaking to local groups to share some expertise, and then hopefully people will have a need for their type of service and come to them at that appropriate point in time because they're the obvious expert because they've shared wisdom or whatever. So which of those arenas have you played in, and which arena do you like the best?
Good question. I've actually played in all three. I think I typically probably play in the, I guess, business builder mode the most. Selling from stage, I don't do as much, I would say, and then keynote speaker, again, would be even less. So I don't know that I necessarily enjoy one more than the other. I'm more comfortable in one area, so I'd be more comfortable in the business builder area for sure, probably because I've done way more of it. And but honestly, if you're speaking to sell, right, sell from stage, I think that if you're passionate about what you're selling, and it really is, to me, it's an invitation for people to join. If it feels really resonant, then I don't feel that that's uh, to me, that's not being salesy or for me to have any nervousness around. It's just simply, okay, come play with me. And I think the keynote speaker probably holds the most nerves because it really is this, like you're holding the whole bag, right? You're the one that they've come to listen to. You're the one that's delivering the talk, and there isn't really as much interaction the way that I love in, for instance, like a conversation such as this.
Okay, so as a business builder speaker, I certainly think that anybody, whether they're a financial planner, an electrician, a plumber, a attorney, whatever it may be, they should be doing business building speaking to increase their client base or whatever. So as an expert in the business building space, what would be your three biggest tips for being successful as a business building speaker?
I think, and this probably translates over into all of it, is practice. Number one is really practice speaking, practice having conversations, practice listening to your own voice, right? So if you're someone who is afraid of speaking, to really, whether it's speaking to the mirror, whether it's speaking to a computer screen, whether it's speaking to people in your family, and then practicing by just getting on lots of stages and lots of podcasts. So practice. I mean, that's really how we get better at speaking and how we gain confidence in doing so. So I think, number one would be to practice.
Okay.
I think
Number two.
secondly would be to really know what your message is. Like what is it that you actually want to share with your audience? What is it, what wisdom do you have that you can share with people in a way that they really get it? And I think that takes some time also and practice to really figure out what that is for you, because it's not just having a message, but you want it to be received. And so how do you speak that in a way that people can receive it? And part of that, I think, is about I know that the state of receptivity is one of relaxation. So how do you put your audience at ease? How do you put your, for me, I use humor a lot because, well, I'm a bit of a wackadoo as it is. So, I mean, it just comes naturally, but I love to laugh. And I know a lot of other people love to laugh, and laughing is actually an amazing way to shift energy in the room. So how do you have that not only convey your message, but then also have it be received by others? And it's almost like you're taking care of your audience in a way. And what would the third thing be? It's a good question. The two came really quickly. I'm like, I don't know what the third one is right now. Let me see. Is anything coming through? Yeah, again, it relates back to taking care of your energetic state. And I have this little saying, be before do. So, how are you being before you do the talk? In other words, take care of you, make sure that you're feeling good. Whatever that takes, maybe it's something that you wear. Are you wearing your favorite top? Are you wearing a favorite, for the women, a pair of earrings? Are you well hydrated? Are you well rested? Are you feeling good in your body? Are you feeling relaxed, present, all of that? So I think those would be the three tips I would give.
Okay, so now we come to the Bare Your Soul portion of the program, and that is, all right, tell me maybe a speaking mistake you made somewhere along your journey that was embarrassing at the time, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something you would highly advise aspiring speakers not to do.
Hmm. You're trying to get me to use my memory. That's a toughie. Let me see.
I even let you
Huh.
off the hook here slightly and say maybe in a mistake you've seen some other speaker make that you would want to pass along.
Yeah. I think talks that repel me are ones where people come in and right from the get-go they're selling you something. There's you just know, um and they're also very I'd say very egocentric, meaning it's very much talking about them, but not in a way that other people can relate to. It's kind of like, look at me, how awesome I am, and not really putting any type of focus into connecting with your audience. Like reading the room doesn't even doesn't even come to them at all. They're just there. They're like, I'm here to sell, and I'm awesome, so you should really, come and sign up for my thing that I'm offering. That to me is like, you don't care about me. Like, you don't, you just care about making the sale. And so that comes across very, very, like, I feel that, and it's a very ick feeling that I'm like, I don't even want to listen what you have to say. So I think that might be the thing that turns me off the most.
So that raises an interesting question, and that is, how do you make sure that any speech you're giving, Glenda, is addressing the true pain points of the audience as much as possible?
I think you gotta know your audience, who you're speaking to. I think on podcasts it's a little different. Not, I wouldn't say completely different. We know that people that are listening to this podcast, for instance, are either speakers or interested in speaking. So, you need to know your audience, because what you actually say and even how you say it will likely change based on who your audience is, right? So I think that it's important that you know that ahead of time, and certainly if you're on a podcast, like, you need to know who you're talking to, right? And what their business is all about, and the focus of what the podcast is all about too. So I think that's really, really important.
All right, so now, Glenda, I want to give you a couple minutes to tell people a little bit more about what it is that you do and how they can get involved in your world if they so choose.
Sure. Well, I tend to work mostly with women. I have worked with men in the past, but mostly women's. Um, Again, who are very high achieving, who are on the go, and they're on this like hamster wheel of hustle, and they want to get off, but they don't know how, or they're afraid to, because the success that they've been having is, they're afraid that that's all going to go away if they stop. So, but they're exhausted and they're burnt out, and they're like, you know, they're not fulfilled, and they may even be resentful. And so that tends to be the clients that I tend to work with. And I work with people one-on-one. I have some group programs also, that I offer throughout the year. And I think probably the best way to get a hold of me is I do have a freebie for everyone. If is that
Sure.
possible? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
What is that freebie and where do they get it?
Yeah. So the freebie is 7 steps to freedom from pressure. And these are some of the tools that I've learned over the years that have really helped me. I used to put so much pressure on myself. I was really hard on myself. I drove myself, to be top of the class, straight A's, all of that, and to just continually excel. And that pressure really took a toll on my health and well-being. So this is really something that I have learned over the years. To take some of these steps, and even just taking one of them, you can start seeing changes in your life. So that is, oh my gosh, you're asking me the website. Hopefully it'll be in the show notes.
Well, it will definitely be in the show notes below. I have
You have it?
freedomfromwithin.funnelcures.com/7 steps.
Yes.
But again, we'll
Yeah.
make sure that's in the show notes down below.
Yeah.
And
So that's Go ahead.
then, so is Freedom from Within your primary website, or what's the primary website?
Yeah, my primary website is freedomfromwithin.net, and I'm also on Instagram as Glenda Lane Freedom Guide, and on Facebook it's just to make it difficult for people, it's Freedom Guide Glenda Lane. So
Hey, gotta keep them hopping. So.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, my sincere thanks to you, Glenda, for joining me as my guest on this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. To all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. As always, I wish you the greatest of success in all that you do, and may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.